The Premier League has finally returned, and we have just completed the first match day of 38 match days in the new 2019-20 Premier League season. So now let's have a review of what went down in the first week. The first game of the round was Liverpool versus newly promoted Norwich City. Liverpool won the game 4-1 in a very dominant display, as they already went 4-0 up at half time, and Norwich managed to grab one back in the 64th minute in the second half. Liverpool's goals were an own goal from Grant Hanley of Norwich, Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk and Divock Origi. And Norwich's one goal scorer was Teemu Pukki. It was a pretty straightforward match from Liverpool. 15 shots and 7 on target. But Norwich did have plenty of scoring shots on their own, 12 shots, 5 on target. It was a pretty straightforward display, 57% possession for Liverpool. This one, many people would have thought would go this way, so no surprises. On to the second match, we have West Ham United versus Manchester City, and this one was a blowout. It was a 5-0 away victory for Manchester City at the London Stadium, and although historically this is usually what the results have been, there was a bit of expectation around West Ham after bringing in quite good signings that they would hopefully do something well, but they were demolished. Gabriel Jesus started off the scoring for City, then Raheem Sterling got in on the act, and then Gabriel Jesus had another goal overruled by VAR, as Raheem Sterling was seen to be millimetres offside in the build-up play. But Raheem Sterling grabbed another 2 to complete his hat-trick, and Sergio Aguero finally converted a spot kick from the penalty spot after it was called back. West Ham, maybe, it's not fair to judge them based on their performance against the reigning Premier League champions, but they certainly need to bring a bit more if they want to be any sort of success this season. For the next game, we have Bournemouth versus Sheffield United. And Sheffield United, newly promoted, looking to make a name for themselves in the top flight. And Bournemouth, they have strengthened a little, so they're hopefully trying to do a little better than they did last year, although they seem to be hanging around the 10 to 12 region at best. It was a 1-1 draw, not the most exciting of games, but Chris Metham scored the goal for Bournemouth, and Billy Sharp for Sheffield United equalised in the 88th minute, which was quite heroic for them. So Sheffield United still undefeated in the top flight, which is good for them. And on to the next match was Burnley versus Southampton. And Burnley actually ran out comfortable 3-0 winners over Southampton. Southampton had more shots, 11-10, and less shots on target, 4-3. And they also had more possession, 53.5% to 46.5%. But it was all Burnley. Southampton really didn't have anything of real effect to hurt Burnley, so another comfortable victory. And on to Crystal Palace versus Everton, which had a little bit of an extra story, storyline added to it because of the Wilfred Zaha transfer, as he was talked about moving to Everton, but that move never came through. Wilfred Zaha did not start the game, but he did come on as a substitute in the 65th minute, but he couldn't produce anything, and the game ended 0-0 with Morgan Schneiderlin also grabbing a double yellow card to be banned for the next match. On to the next one was Watford versus Brighton and Hove Albion, and this could probably be classified as the first upset. Watford were really looking good last season. They finished quite high up the table, and they were looking to do some damage this season having brought in some decent additions, but Brighton 3-0 winners away from home. Very impressive. First goal was unfortunately a own goal by Decore, but then Florent Andone and Neil Mapai just absolutely took the game away from Watford, and it was all Brighton. Brighton even held their own in the possession stats. Watford did have 11 shots, 3 on target, compared to Brighton's 5 shots, 3 on target. But Watford didn't have enough substance, and they take a very surprising first round loss. On to the next match, and it's Tottenham versus Aston Villa. And Aston Villa is touted to be the one promoted side that will likely stay up if any of them are to, but they didn't get off to a winning start, but it's always going to be tough coming up against Tottenham Hotspur, who have invested very well this transfer market after not signing anyone in the past 2 windows. And John McGinn for Aston Villa actually got them off the mark first to put them up 1-0 from the 9th minute. And so Aston Villa were leading 1-0 from half time, but Tottenham came back strong with goals from Tanguy Ndombele, and Harry Kane twice to run out the game 3-1 winners. But Aston Villa looked good early, but they were sloppy on the ball. Jack Grealish as well was making some mistakes that people, who rate him very highly probably didn't think he would be doing, but that's how it ended up. Tottenham dominated the game with 70% possession to 30%, 31 shots and 7 on target to 7 shots and 4 on target. It was very dominant, and Aston Villa, they held on until the 73rd minute, but they were always going to lose. On to the next match is Leicester City versus Wolves, and this was probably the match of the likely person to break into the top 6, and neither did, because it ended in a 0-0 draw. Willy Bolly actually got a goal that was disallowed by VAR, as he was judged to have handled the ball in the build-up. So disappointing for Wolves there, but Leicester probably a bit disappointing from them. Had their new signing Ayoze Perez in there, and but just couldn't get anything going. And Wolves, they were very, very impressive, but only had 30% possession compared to Leicester's 70%, which was incredible. 15 shots for Leicester, only 1 on target, compared to Wolves' 8 shot, 2 on target. So Leicester had a lot of the ball, but weren't doing much good with it. And Wolves, they had their one chance, but disallowed. So probably disappointing from the both teams. Next match was Newcastle versus Arsenal. And Arsenal had a pretty rotated squad here. Lacazette was left on the bench. Torreira was left on the bench. New signing Luiz, Pepe, and loanee Ceballos were also left on the bench. But Reece Nelson, who's coming back from loan, who performed very well in Germany, he started on the left-hand side. And it was a 1-0 victory with Aubameyang grabbing the goal halfway through the second half. Newcastle, after getting the new signings, there was a bit of hype around them, but still kind of the same old Newcastle. They did beat Arsenal in shots 9-8, same amount, 2 on target, but still, they were dominating in possession, and they really, they needed to get that goal. They needed to make an intent that they could, actually tussle in this league. Otherwise, they might be facing relegation. And for the final match, and it was it wasn't really a foretold blowout, but Manchester United 4-0 winners over Chelsea at Old Trafford. And Chelsea started strong. They were dominant. Actually, they were pretty much dominant for 3/4 of the game. They're dominating possession and shots, but they just weren't clinical enough. And Manchester United, operating on a counter-attacking system, were what Chelsea weren't. They were clinical. They went forward. They got the goals. Marcus Rashford converting a penalty in the 18th minute after some clumsy defending by Kurt Zouma, which is not great for him after, finally getting a chance to be a starter in the Chelsea team after so many years. But so that put Manchester United 1-0 ahead at halftime, and Chelsea still had their chances to get up. They hit the post twice, which in the first half, which was, unlucky for them, but still you need to get up and keep going. But goals from Martial in the 65th minute, and then straight after Rashford in the 67th minute, pretty much put the game to bed. And then Daniel James, the new signing from Swansea for Manchester United, scored only 7 minutes after coming on to make it 4-0 Manchester United end. And it can only be described as disappointing for Chelsea, but they are in a transitional period. There's a new coach, he can't be expected to pick up immediately where Sarri left off, even though Sarri, it was his first season last year. He is a much more experienced coach, so he knew what he was doing. He had a system. And Chelsea, although they were very promising going forward, defensively they were in shambles, so need to work on that. And, Chelsea fans need to have faith. They can't, just start saying Lampard out now. That'd be insane. It's one game, it's a new coach, they look good on the attack, but their defense just needs to be shored up, and in time, it probably will be. So that is everything for Matchday 1. City on top of the table, United in second, Liverpool third. That probably looks pretty normal for most seasons, but then you have Brighton and Hove Albion in fourth spot, and that looks pretty good. We shall see how this season will transpire. Will it be City again? Will it be Liverpool? Will Tottenham have a say? Is this Manchester United performance just a one-off, or are they the real deal? We don't know, but we will find out later. Alright, thank you for watching. Goodbye.